We're going to have a conversation around culture, especially during change. And like our keynote address talked about appearances and culture, that was quite intriguing. And allow me to start off with the lovely lady in the panel. And Monica, you have seen organizations go through change and go through a whole life cycle. And as HR professionals, some of us are doing that. It's interesting that we're having this conversation this week. And I think on Monday and Tuesday, just giving advisory on organizations that are doing redundancies. There's an institution about to declare 150 people redundant, and the HR is lost. You've ever had lost? Imagine firing 150 people. You're also wondering, am I also part of this? So what are the things that we need to do as HR when assessing cultural damage or misalignment after a major change?
Okay, thank you very much, Zula. First, allow me to say hello to everybody. So, hi, everyone. As you heard, my name is Monica Kehia, and I am a go-getter. So, what do we say, NCBA guys? That's culture, right? So, we are talking about culture, and culture being how do we do things around here? So, I resonate with that answer. How do we do things around here? The things that matter to us, their shared values, their rituals, okay? So Strathmore today have rituals. You said when MC, you clear after yourself. I love that. The dress code in Strathmore is known everywhere. So I have 2 children in Strathmore, and we have to have a wardrobe allowance because they can't come dressed anyhow. At NCBA, it is the language. We are go-getters, we go for it, from the guard all the way to the CEO. So it is the symbols. So if you look around the room, and I requested with permission to make sure that there's an NCBA logo, okay? Because that NCBA logo represents our culture and storytelling. So Zula, to the question, when change happens, because it's a constant, I think Dr. Julius, our keynote address speaker today, spoke about the disruption that is constant. It's a constant. So remember that change is a constant. In this room, we have leaders, and that's what we're grappling with every day. So what must you think about? And we're here to talk about people. So you must remember there is a human being in the midst of this change. And so I love this quote by Robin Sharma. He said, change is hard, because human beings are complex, and you're trying to get everybody to appreciate this change. It's very hard at the beginning. So the human being is the first person you must think about, Manzula. You've come up with a change in technology. So technology has disrupted us. So you want to introduce a new system and hope everybody gets it. So the human being has to implement that. And I'll be talking about the examples, because we said here as a panel, as a panelist, we'll make it real, okay? Because leadership has got to make it clear. That's the first thing, to the people that are going to be impacted. Why is this change happening? And why is it important? Okay? And then secondly, you must remember it is your role as a leader to make it real. Don't imagine that everybody gets it and they know why it has to change. So come down to the people and understand that they have emotions. It will impact their lifestyle. So if there's a new technology change or a merger like what happened at NCBA, and I'll be talking about that a lot, because that was the biggest change that I've ever had to go through as an HR leader. So leadership had to know there's going to be a big announcement that is going to impact the people. How will they feel about that? So the last thing that you must do is that you have to make it stick, because there will be behaviors, cultural changes that will happen. So I want to say, as leaders, and especially the HR enablers in the room, I think it was our keynote speaker, Dr. Julius, said that we are enablers to strategy. So we are talking about culture as a strategy. Okay, they say culture is strategy for breakfast. Now we are saying culture is strategy, because you have a great document of the change to be implemented, but who is going to implement this? So the first thing you must do is carry the human being along with you and ask them, how are you feeling? So in that big change that happened 5 years ago, now this is the 6th year, 2 organizations coming together, great brands who are used to doing things in a certain way, customers who loved their brands, now suddenly there's disruption. You're going to be having one organization. So what's going to happen to me as an employee is a big question. So we took people through psychological safety to tell us, how are you feeling? And HR was a big driver to that. And allow people to vent, allow people to express themselves, and don't shut them down. Because if you do that, then I'm sorry, your strategy will fail. Because 73% of companies fail because of failure in culture. So Nzula, to your question, what are the things the leaders must think about very clearly? One is the people. You can change technology and technology will follow. You can change a building and the building will collaborate. Will your people be able to move with you? And remember, people will move at different times. There will be anger. Why am I being told to move from this organization into this new one? I don't like it. So what are you going to do? And that is the person who will be talking to your customer. So if you don't take care of your employees first, what do you think is going to happen to your customer? They'll collapse and go away, isn't it? What do you think is going to happen to your brand? It will fail. So I think for me is to remember that culture is about rituals, what you do every day, and you must help people get into those rituals. When you hear NCBA saying we're go-getters, and I will be talking about that in the next question, it was a big change that involved everybody, asking them, what would you like to see in the new organization? Not just telling them what to do. It's about language, right? So what language is acceptable around here? It's about symbols and also storytelling. So culture is a big conversation, and the leadership has to drive it because they watch you. What you say, do you actually deliver? I think we talked about integrity. Integrity is a big word and a value in every mission or vision of organizations. And today we are seeing organizations falling apart and firing people because of failure of integrity. It starts from the top. You, the leaders sitting in the room, are you believable? So we have to carry people along, and every conversation they're watching. What did the leaders say about this merger? They said nobody is going to lose their job. Did anybody lose their job? The answer was no. We carried everybody, so we were believable. This merger is about growth. Did our customers believe it? We had to make sure we leave the talk as leaders. So those are the things that you have to think about whenever there's change. People must understand why. People must understand how. People must understand when and where. And until they do that, then you will fail on your strategy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Monica. You guys are getting it, huh? You guys are getting it. You know I never talk alone, so you better get used to this. Are we still together? All right. So, Monica, we've talked about some rituals, and I want to hear it from our CEO here. He's the only CEO, all of us are HR practitioners. But he has been at the helm of change. But there's some rituals that Monica has talked about and some practices that actually now institutionalize culture post-crisis. What are some of those things?
Thanks. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Everybody's okay? Right, so I'll speak with experience. I'm an accountant by training, but when I took on a CEO role, accountants are desk people, numbers, spreadsheets, and not outgoing. But when I took the CEO role, or interim CEO, then CEO, it meant that I had to get out. Yeah, and a simple thing such as a post on LinkedIn or Facebook or social media, we observed that when we posted as an institution and when the same content was posted as an individual, it had a different kind of a spread. The individual post went more viral because organizations need a face. Yeah? Ultimately, as much as we automate, people out there want to associate an organization with a face or faces or people, right? So coming to how we implement culture and rituals, in my opinion, there are three things that have worked. And I've seen this in a family-led organization. I've seen it in a corporate organization. The first thing, you have to have a culture custodian. Who is owning this culture change? Now, in a practical example, for example, Avenue, when there was a new management that came on board 5 years ago, it meant that there is going to be change. And the way things were done was very different from what the new management was going to do. For example, a surgeon who is coming from university or from training or from fellowship is now a minimal invasive surgeon. He does not believe in cutting, right? Because his training and the technology has moved. Another surgeon would not do that. They're used to open cut, open heart surgeries. So these two needed to be fused. So somebody needed to announce that there is a change that is going to happen, and we've discussed that already. And that custodian needs to be the CEO or the leader who will drive this change. The second, which is the question that has been asked, is what are the rituals? So for example, in Avenue, because there were two factions, a 45-year-old organization obviously had, and I retired about people who have done 25 years, 20 years, 15 years, and even 32 years, yeah? We had to realize that there are two different factions. And these two factions, we called them names. So a ritual of symbolism and naming is important, in my opinion. For example, we called the old guard legends and the new people newbies. And the old guard we actually needed to appreciate them, because truly speaking, an organization could not have lasted 45 years by fluke, right? So the old guard also had fire under their belly. The new team is coming with amazing new ideas. How do you bring these two cultures together? It's not an NCBA and CBA merger, it's not two organizations, but within the organization, if you look, even in your organization, you'll find those two or three factions. And now we have Gen Z, right? So for us, it was the legends and the newbies needed to be fused. And what is the ritual we started? We then created with a very capable HR team, and one of them is here, Lillian. Say hi, Lillian. We started something we call Kwetu. And our values that we had already created, we then changed it into Kiswahili, because most people understand Kiswahili. And Kwetu actually meant kujitolea, wajibika, elimisha, taaluma, and ukarimu. And all this became now a song. We even had an anthem, yeah, that was composed by the team, you will not believe it, by a surgeon. A surgeon actually composed, and if we have time, we'll sing the anthem with Lillian. And this anthem actually brought a wave across the organization. The third thing that we did in rituals is we demystified data. What do I mean by that? Avenue being a family-owned business for a long time, now becoming corporatized, private equity and so on, needed to move forward. And in a family-owned business, which I've seen in other businesses as well, information is held with very few people. And it is also used as power. Sindio? Si HR mnajuaga. Yeah? Kuna information yenye mnawekaga, kuna information hata hamupewi. Sindio? So what we needed to do is we needed to liberalize data and information. How did we do this? I proverbially opened the server in two factions. One, for the data of financials and performance, every single individual in the organization needed to know what's happening in the organization, including the cleaner. How many patients did we see? What was our net promoter score? How many complaints did we get? And the most sensitive one, how many sentinel events did we see? Because if that staff or that surgeon or that doctor does not know, then how do you expect them to make a difference? That was one part of the ritual, data. The second part of data was we liberalized data to even customer facing. We opened up our servers and said all our patient feedback will be displayed on screens such as this, unedited in all the setups. In a hospital, in a healthcare. I was sitting with a Coop Bank senior leader in the launch, and he told me, we give people money, and we can't bear put our net promoter score on the screen and our patient complaints on the screen. Patient feedback, yeah? But those two really transformed. The organization needed a shake-up, yeah? There was a lot of uncertainty who is going to be retained, who is not going to be retained. But the communication, because data was now available, performance evaluations were based on data, everybody knew where they were and what they needed to do, and that really transformed the organization. And the last thing to close, the daily rituals. The daily meetings, the weekly meetings, and the monthly CEO town halls that communicated change constantly and answered questions constantly. There's a lot more I can say, but I'll stop there.
Thank you. Do you have a kwetu? I'm just asking. All right, and to you, Victor. Monica has spoken about her experience, and Imran has also told us about the rituals that they did. But I'm just thinking, as a leader, business has to continue. Even as we change, we still need money, right? Yeah, we still need to serve people. So we are torn between just focusing on change and also serving the people. But we also know that everything rises and falls with leadership. So what are these behaviors that we need to see with the leadership that actually supports the new direction and values of the organization? Because remember, they're still human.
Yeah, morning everyone. As has been mentioned, my name is Victor Komu. I'm HR Director for Gadaworld Security Africa. For those who might not know, Gadaworld is former KK Security. Gadaworld came into the African market in 2016, acquired KK Security, but retained the brand name. So it has been a change process for the last 9 years. 3 months ago in April, we rebranded the Kenya business from KK Security to Gadaworld, and I look after the HR operations across Africa, 37,000 staff across 12 countries. To your question around leadership qualities, perhaps I should also have a tagline because that's what Monica has led with. I think I consider myself to be like an eagle, and we all know the story of an eagle. Soars up with eaglets, little eaglets to the highest level, and then releases them on a free fall so that they can learn to fly. And basically, that means as leaders, as HR practitioners, as change agents, our job is to give people the space to try. That's our job, and I want to believe that that's what I do. So, leadership qualities, I think the first thing in a change management sort of process, as leaders, you have to be humble. That's the first quality I would consider, humility. A lot of the time during a change process, like in Gadaworld, KK, we acquired quite a number of businesses across Africa. There's a tendency of leaders believing, which might be a false belief, that they know it all. Yeah, that you've got all the answers. And so how you deal with that change process is that you go into these sessions, activities, plans, strategies, with that mentality that you know it all. And so at Gadaworld, we have moved from a know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all culture. Leaders need to know when to lead from the front and when to lead from the back. You know, you don't have to sit in every boardroom and speak for 40 minutes and then ask at the end, anybody with a question? It doesn't have to be that way. The second quality that has been touched on today is agility. And this is the speed at which leaders understand and adopt to the change. It's one thing to talk about big names, agility. It's another to actually practice it. Again, in some of the sessions, when we were thinking about the rebrand and what the impact will be, and the reason why we rebranded the Kenya business last is because KK started in Kenya in around 1970. So it's an old business. And we had a challenge which we call a founder's mentality, because it was started off by an individual right from the Iraq War. He was a Marine, he came into Kenya, settled in Kenya, started a business which thrived and succeeded, and he had hired and set up proper structures. So we acquired a business that had a lot of founders' mentality. And our model as GADA was what we called an owner-operator mindset, where the staff would feel part of the business. It's like equity, shareholding, long-term investments, etc. So how do you make the staff believe that this new company that has come in and acquired the entity that has existed for 40 plus years is not going to wipe them off, is going to take their views into consideration. And so transitioning from the founder's mindset to an owner-operator model meant that we needed to do a few things. Someone mentioned around looking at the benefit structure, for example. And so we set up the long-term incentive plan for senior leadership. We allocated shares to some senior leaders in the business, etc., etc. And remember, GADA World is a private entity. So again, convincing investors that they needed to cede part of the shareholding to employees was also not very easy, but we managed to do it. I think the other behavior that I would talk about is listening deeply. There's listening and there's listening deeply. Like you need to sort of, medical doctors, that thing that they put in the heart when the stethoscope, yes, that you've got to get to a level of listening where you're not just listening to react. It's actually to listen to understand. Because you're in a business, you've acquired a business in multiple countries that have different cultures, different issues. In Malawi, you're dealing with Malawians. And there's a way that Malawians operate, which is not the same as Ugandans or Kenyans. So you have them to have another level of listening, which is so deep as a leader that you really need to understand and comprehend the pulse of the organization. And so I think those are some of the qualities that I would say. And finally, there's a level of innovation within a business where you, again, allow the staff to come up with solutions which are local and contextualized. So as a leader, then you also have to have that skill that allows for innovation. And we call it fearless innovation. And back to my analogy of an eagle, where you allow people to be what they need to be and try it out. When they fail, then you go back to the drawing board. And collaboration. Again, we have this discussion in our business. I'm sure most of us see the pull and push between sales and marketing and finance. Sales and marketing want to go out and spend, right? Finance on the other end are saying, guys, we don't have money to waste. And there's a very thin line between that healthy competition between functions and that combative approach where a salesperson will be saying, these finance guys don't understand what we want to do, we're trying to sell this new business, vis-a-vis that healthy competition and space. So I would say those are the qualities that we have ingrained in our leadership, and I'm happy to be here today because working with Strathmore, Shadrach and team, we've been able to train close to 50 of our leaders. I think we're in the second or third cohort this year. Just last week we had about 3 of our guys from the region in an operational excellence program here, and we'll continue doing that to build those leadership qualities. Thank you.
All right. Yani umesema tuchukue watoto turushe. They figure out what to do, yeah? Anyway, on a light note. Are we still together? Are you writing your questions down because you're going to be opening the floor in a bit? So please make sure they are ready so that then when we come to that. But now I'm curious. You said you were very transparent, Imran. You put everything there for people to see when we complain. But I'm just wondering, did the employees actually believe? Or what are these communication strategies you used that really worked? I'm sure there are some that did not. Please also tell us the ones that didn't work. And then, and how did you keep them motivated to keep going even when everything else was in, for lack of a better word, chaotic?
That's a very good question. So the biggest assumption we make as CEOs is the strategy is known. That's a big assumption. We assume we've done glossy papers, we've done glossy posters, we've put in every center, every unit, there's a vision board, and we even have KPIs and everybody knows. But that's not true, and as HR, I think you can attest to it. The power of storytelling is what I applied, and with the team. And I'll tell you the story, very briefly. Avenue began in 1978, and it was founded by somebody called Dr. Patel. Dr. Patel was working with another institution, and in those days there was a lot of discrimination for especially the colored people. Asian, African could not access the same healthcare institution that others did. And Dr. Patel felt that where he used to work, he was not serving his purpose. What did he decide to do? He quit his job. And he opened a medical center at his house, which was on First Avenue, Parklands. Isn't that compelling? And we had Mary, who had worked with Dr. Patel, retiring in 2 years. Now there's a lot of change coming in the organization. There are new people, there are new owners, there are new shareholders, the family is out. Those people who actually carried money every single day suddenly had no role. Suddenly we needed to do banking in a certain way. There are certain reports that we needed to do in a certain way. And there are some people who lost relevance, if not power. But the storytelling appreciated where the legends came from. And so the newbies who come through, the new C-suite, the new managers who come in with new ideas and say, you know, you guys used to do this thing, it's not good, it's not ethical, it's not corporate, it's not by design. This is wrong, you should be audited. You know, as HR, you see new employees who come and they want to make an impact by making change. But that's not always good, right? So by storytelling and going around institutions in every medical center, in every hospital, in different departments, as an individual, as a CEO with my C-suite, we would go and spend 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in Buruburu Medical Center and sit with the staff in Kamkunji. And we would not talk for 40 minutes. We would let them talk. We would communicate the strategy. And we would communicate that the legends, we appreciate you. And Irene Kaberere, who was the person who worked with Dr. Patel, was also telling the story of how they used to run from Avenue, who did not have a laboratory and did not have a blood donor unit, and they would run up the hill to MP Shah Hospital for blood because they had an emergency. The gentleman called David would say, you know what, we never had even a single vehicle. And we bought one vehicle that would do medical center rounds. yeah? And we would do an Enterprise Road on Monday, in Nakuru on Friday, and so on. And today you have a physical medical center. Dr. Amit Thakur would drive to Enterprise Road, Dr. Amit Thakur would drive to Nakuru. So when you do storytelling, suddenly it becomes real. Even for you as you imagine, you're imagining a combi van going to Enterprise Road and doing a clinic, and then on Friday it's driving to Nakuru. Today, the Nakuru team have a medical center, Enterprise Road had a medical center. And physically now they realize we've come a journey, we've come a long way. So through storytelling, we actually communicated more and more what the change is going to be and how we addressed. Of course, there are a lot of wish lists that come when we meet staff. Yeah, so many wish lists. I mean, we want salary increments. Our model was changing from a PA-led, patient attendant-led care to nursing-led care. And that meant majority of our staff, 70% of our staff who are patient care-led, were actually going to either be declared redundant or exited from the business in some way. And there was fear. But through these town halls, I picked up that fear. If I had not gone around with my C-suite, the new team would not have picked this up. You get me? So there were transition discussions, and the ultimate goal or ultimate epitome was the monthly CEO town halls. And if you follow me on LinkedIn or follow Avenue, you'll see the monthly town halls. Our town halls moved from complaints, because we would summarize all the town halls that we've had in the CEO's town hall and discuss issues there. Until we had to transition by the 18th town hall, we were now talking about the services we offer rather than the problems that we need to solve. Because now the team wanted to know what are the new services that are being brought into the organization and so on. So appreciate the legends, Irene Kaberere, and appreciate Lillian, who is the trailblazer in Kisumu for what they are bringing, the new ideas they're bringing, and that's the fusion that we call Avenue Nikwetu through communication and storytelling.
Excellent, excellent. Are we learning? All right, and now I'm just thinking, so here I am being told stories, but I'm this person as an individual who does not like change. I'm this person who waits to see how, tunaangalia tu, tuone whether it is working or not. And now, Monica, how do you get me, to start trusting the process? And I'm over here with, I'm not even able to come to work because I'm like, fear is crippling me. There are people who have moved. The guys of Kwetu have moved, the legends and the other guys, they have been told stories and they have moved. But I'm over here in between. I am not moving, but I'm also not, I don't even know where I am. How can you build trust with that level of people?
Thank you, Zila, for asking that question about trust. And I'll tell you about trust in a moment. But first, let me double tap the 4 things that I said about culture. It's about rituals. Have you guys heard about rituals? Mm-hmm. Tell your neighbor rituals. Rituals. So Imran has talked about rituals, and I'm glad today I've known through storytelling that Avenue Healthcare started from Avenue Park. Yeah, that's where the name was born for. So storytelling, again, is part of culture. So tell your neighbor, storytelling. Storytelling. And as you are saying that, ask yourself, are you building culture through storytelling and building rituals within your organization? I think Victor talked about a symbol of an eagle, right? So tell your neighbor symbols. So Victor, in NCBA, we have what we've introduced as a house concept. And this is copyrighted, so please don't steal this idea, right? We are copyrighted, it's a house concept. So Daktari, you asked me, how did we do this culture? And I'll tell you, the house concept is part of our rituals and language that has really helped to build trust, and I'll talk about trust in a moment. So I'm the sponyo, right? Say sponyo, of the crocodile house, yeah? So we are members, you are an eagle, right? We have an eagle house. And in Mamba House, and my colleagues, NCBA go-getters, we always rivaling each other and competing because which is the best house. So you guys all went to high school. Cynthia, you all went to high school. Did you have a house? So that's how we've built collaboration and trust, because we broke down the barriers of hierarchy through the house concept. So all the executive team members are a sponsor of the house, and you have approximately 300 go-getters, irrespective of hierarchy, irrespective of geography, irrespective of departments. So we've broken down those silos through the house concept. And what do the crocodiles say? That we see it, we seize it, Ogopa Mamba. So that's our slogan. Again, language. Yeah. So Daniel, you're a lion. Yeah. What is yours? No, you're a zebra. Sorry. Hey, the lions. What is your slogan? Did we stand and tell them? Good afternoon. Go for it. So black and white, no gray areas. Joseph, what are you? Oh, you're a Negro, just like Victor. What do you guys say? Hey, you're Joseph and you're?
I'm Joseph and I'm a go-getter.
Go for it.
Monica is my team leader. As you are eagles, we soar high and fly high.
So those are the eagles, right? I think there is one more person. Pauline, are you in the house? Which house are you?
Leopard.
Okay, what do you guys say?
We call ourselves the Wakandas.
Hey, you can't beat the Mambas, eh?
Yeah.
What do you guys say?
We say Wakandas. We are the Wakandas.
The Wakandas, and you have a symbol. How does it look like? You hold yourselves in a certain way, eh?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see the power of culture with symbols, storytelling, language, and rituals, all right? So to the question of trust. Trust is a currency, a very, very important currency. And if you don't possess that currency evidently, then unfortunately it impacts the ability to drive culture and even business, because as Stephen Covey says, business happens at the speed of trust. So write that down, that business happens at the speed of trust. So when there is change, I think the biggest thing people watch out for, the ones you lead, is can we trust the leaders in what they're saying? And I'll just tell you the story of NCBA, that trust was the biggest currency for the success of the NCBA merger. Because you had two big brands, great brands that were loved by customers and were loved by their employees. So disruption and change has happened. We didn't ask for it, we were not consulted, Nzula. Is there anyone who is ever consulted in a merger? No, you are just told the shareholders have come together. I think even in 4KK, you were not consulted. You are just told. So here you are, and I'll make it very, very real, because the role of leaders is also to make it real, right? Make it clear, but also make it real. And as I say this, by the way, I'm thinking about Paul Kasimu, who is one of my big mentors in industry, because he's taught me a lot about how to lead as an HR leader. And Daktari, I'm going for CEO role by faith. See, we were challenged to go for CEO role. Yeah, so I was challenged to start thinking about taking over from John Gashore. I think if this is being recorded, he might hear me. Please don't tell him, but if this is being recorded, the cat is out of the bag. So we must aspire, and by the way, he always says that to all his direct reports, please aspire to be the CEO and take over from me. I believe in all of you who reporting to me, because I hire people who are always better than me. So that really shocks me. You mean I can be better? He said, yes. So aspire for my job. So I'm going for it, yeah? I'm a go-getter, I'm going for it. So I might be the next Paul Russo. Right, Victor? We are going for it to be CEOs, eh? Are you guys going for it? To be the next CEO in your company? So trust is very important. So let me share with you what happened, and I'll make it very, very real. So this merger has been announced. There are two CEOs, there are two HR directors, there are two heads of treasury, two heads of everything, right? So everybody's wondering, so how is this thing going to be? Who is going to be the next CEO? Who's going to be the next group director? So everybody is working on eggshells. You are seated on the edge of the chair. You don't know if you have a job. And these are the people who are serving your customers. So business has to continue, right? So trust is a big currency that has to drive business and make sure that this merger succeeds. So at the helm of it all, I carried a very big responsibility because HR, being the HR director of the NIC Bank with my counterpart, we had to come together and agree, we don't know who is going to get this job, eh? But you know what, we have to do the job. And we must make sure everybody feels that what we say is true and they are watching. So both of the CEOs had to do the same. Yeah, and I know, Julius, you and I have agreed that you will write a book about this case study, the best merger in Africa. Because honestly, and I'm not saying that because I'm an NCBA, I have never seen a merger like the one I went through, right? Because it required a lot, and we were very transparent and very open and very clear. Why is this merger happening? It's for growth, and people were watching to see, can we trust you? Is it for growth? For me, yeah? But MC Oga? You are doing a fantastic job. Now suddenly there's a merger between Strathmore Business School and Lagos. Yeah. So now, and another Oga is there. So who will be Ogaring? See, you will be wondering. And when your dean stands and says you won't lose your job, are you going to trust him? If you ask your neighbor, do you carry the currency of trust? Do people trust you? Shadrach, your brand, ask your neighbor. When you say things, do you stand by your word? Do people trust what you say? Or you say this, and then another day you bring another jargon. Julius and Anna are not asking each other. They ask each other. Do you carry that currency of trust? Can people trust you? So here we are, and everybody is like, me. So people would come to me and say, Monica, this thing, I think we are a bit swallowed. NCBA is a big brand, And in fact, we know who are the owners, and you know who that person is, So hapo sisi tunaisha. Kuisha sisi. And I'm like, no, guys. We must trust the leaders. The shareholders have told us this thing is about growth. So all of you, please continue doing your job. We have a customer to serve. Business must continue in the meantime. So it was very, very difficult to carry people through this change because you had to stand and be tested. Are you trusted? So we had to create organization design and structures, right? Everybody's wondering, so what job will I get? Am I going to be demoted, right? So the storytelling and the town halls, every week, every other 2 weeks, we had to stand up, the 2 CEOs and the 2 HR directors, to assure everybody you are not losing your job as long as you continue in this journey. So are you in or are you out? Yeah, we are in. And we began the journey of building structures, integrating systems, assuring our customers that this brand is here to serve you. Meanwhile, the systems are crashing. I think you also our CEO one day stand up and say, this technology is 4-letter words. And we had to carry him down and say, John, you can't say that. He was like, but it is true, it has failed us. And we have to be honest to our customers. And guess what? Our customers told us, thank you for owning up. Because that's a part of trust. When things fail, are you vulnerable as a leader to say, I have failed? Or do you blame other people or sweep things under the carpet? So accept as a leader for you to be trusted. You will fail sometimes. Are you ready to admit that you've made a mistake? Because we made mistakes, but we are very vulnerable as leaders to say, okay, I think a time has come. Some of you are not on board. Okay? Some of you are not on board. And this culture will never go anywhere if you're not on board. So again, a test of trust. What are you going to do? Half the room are derailing the plan. But you have to succeed, right? So what do? Trust remains key. So we said, okay, we agreed this thing is for growth. But if, honestly, you feel you're not able to be in this ship, we'll give you a chance to say, Mimi nimechukua mkono juu. And we went through a process, a very dignified process of allowing anybody who felt, I just can't carry on with this. I just don't want to be in this ship. And I think that was the biggest test of my leadership. Because here you have people who have worked for the company, have served the company, but they're just not in this merger completely. But we went through a very dignified process. I don't think I had anybody call me and say you guys have you guys have messed it up. I think every person who left as an ambassador of NCBA brand, and they talk very well about how we allowed them to live in a dignified way. So for you to earn the trust, you've got to treat people with dignity, both your customers and your employees. So I can talk all day.
Yes,
because it was such an exciting journey, continues to be, but anyone who will ever have to go through any change, remember, at the center of trust is dignity. Always treat the human being with dignity. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Hey, silence means you're just writing notes and wondering whether it's applying to you. All right, and just quickly, we will be opening the floor in a bit, but Victor, now to you. We have heard about stories of what has happened, but as a HR professional, we are now data-driven. What are some of the metrics we can use to measure the success or this transformation that we're talking about in our organizations?
Yeah, I just want to add to what Monica has said in terms of change and managing a change process, such as an acquisition or merger. Something I learned a couple of years back is the success of any intervention depends on the interior quality of the intervener. The success of any intervention depends on the inner quality of the intervener. Now, we talk about blind spots, right? All of us have a blind spot. We probably don't know about it, that's why it's called a blind spot. But that's the source of how we operate, how you show up. So when a merger or an acquisition is successful, it tells you that the quality of the people who handled that is quite high. It's never easy, but they're able to do it. Now, going back to the question, Grace, around metrics, I'm very happy that we have my colleague Nelson, who is our business analyst in charge of data and analytics in the HR space. And what we have done in GADA is that we know that everything can be measured. Culture is sort of inherently qualitative. But anything, even if it's qualitative, can be turned into a number. It can. And we know that what gets measured gets done. So the first sort of metrics that I would say is important for all of us in this room is the engagement score. I'm sure we all conduct surveys, we know them, Gallup, whatever, Pulse surveys. If you conduct your survey and you look at the engagement score, whether internally or you outsource it, that will tell you in a quantitative way the culture within the organization. You can also look at retention rates, attrition rates, right? Apart from that acquisition period, where of course, because it's a strategic decision, you have to let some people go. During normal business operations, it's very easy to know if this company is a good company to work for. Just find out how many people left. If you are looking for a job, you're a job seeker, just find out how many people left last year. It will tell you the culture in that organization. And then so, again, the town halls, meetings, whatever. How many people attend those town halls. Because when you're starting a change process, initially, you've got lots of people who are keen to listen on what is being discussed and what is being said. As you move along with town halls and they become common, you will find that the attendees, especially when it's online, it continues declining. It tells you there's disengagement, that people are now tired of stories, or they don't want to hear what you have to say, and that's an important metric, that if you have your town hall, whether it's a physical one or a virtual one, the number of attendees that come to those town halls is an indicator of the culture within the organization. And the important bit about metrics, whether qualitative or quantitative, and especially for HR practitioners, is how do you tie these metrics to business outcomes? How do you tie this, for example, to profitability? Because it's one thing to say, okay, our attrition rate is 3%, but the CEOs want to know, so what? So what if it's 1%? So what if it's 5%? What does that metric really mean? Can you tie that to profitability? Can you tie that to revenue? Can you tie that to sales? I think that the important bit about culture and behavior and all these things is you have them to correlate it to business performance. It's one thing to have it as a metric and a number, but it's another to link it to business performance. And that's why we have in our business analysts whose job, because we are in a very high labor intensive organization. And so having people who are dedicated to look at those numbers and tell us what they mean for our business is quite important. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now allow me to open the floor. Are we getting it right? Are we getting it right? So questions. Imran, you can start, and then we'll go to Victor, and we finish with Monica.
So I'll quickly take on what I've noted, particularly about trust in a political environment. I think somebody asked that, yeah? So how do you beat corporate politics? And by the way, you can't eliminate it. You'll be lying to yourself if you think you can eliminate politics. How to beat politics, in my opinion, is truth. Chase the truth, over-communicate, clarity beats politics, yeah? These kamkunjis, and you know, there's usually, as a CEO I know, there's the WhatsApp group that is official, and then there's we call it Avenue BBC, or I know about it, yeah? So you need to get ahead of misinformation. Before it gets to politics, it starts as misinformation, and then it gets to politics, and then there are people or casualties in that. And in Avenue, what we did is we actually particularly had WhatsApp groups that are official, and we recognize those that are not official, because people can vent, but we would over-communicate through these town halls, through these meetings, and these daily rituals, which would help. I'll move to the next quick question. What are the things that drive togetherness? What brings everybody together? I know it's Monica's question, but I'll just tell you what we did. Lillian championed something from Kisumu, and that project, which was called Kwetu Points, spread across the country. And when an idea that came up from the regional office is implemented across the country, people feel empowered. And the Kwetu Points were what brought people together. What are the CSR projects that you want to do? Like Kisumu Hospital with their team and the regional team did tree planting and reclaiming of land that is riparian, that was blocked, the river that was blocked. They opened it up. They did tree planting, they did orphanages. That same idea is being picked up in Nairobi with a different version. Now, what does Kwetu Points mean? In their scorecard, then, the HR team now said, why don't we have a Kwetu Point with a weight in the scorecard? And as it started, people were doing it to get good scores, but eventually it didn't matter. And when I went to one of the sessions in Kisumu a year later, I found that the staff were so many in the field planting trees and clearing, but they were with their families. They brought their children and so on, until I was wondering who is running the hospital, because if all these people are here at midday, who is running the hospital? But what started as, a small thing as Kwetu Points became now a movement that was applied now across. Now Nairobi is doing it, Mombasa is doing it, and so on. So those kind of rituals and bring people together, and they actually bring a following, yeah? I'll stop there.
Yeah, to the question on, just a minute. Line manager, I think, capabilities. I think my belief is, you take care of the people who work for you and they take care of your targets. So, you've got to build the capabilities of your line managers to understand that. A lot of the line managers have the technical competency, but they lack the other element that we all know about, the soft skills, the emotional intelligence, etc., etc. So it has to be intentional and driven by HR through the CEO to ensure that right from EXCO that you are pushing, literally, that your EXCO and senior leaders have to take soft skills training. We do it, whether that's coaching, mentoring, whatever it is. There are loads of content available in whichever format. If someone wants to go to South Africa for soft skills training and you have the budget, please do it. Because the responsibility of managing people is not a HR responsibility, but you have to make line managers aware. And it's a constant effort, and it's not easy, and we have to deal with it, and that's the path that we chose in HR. I also say that in my field, that easy didn't make it into my adulthood. So don't expect it to be easy, that you'll get all your line managers accepting and being responsible for their staff. When they don't want to deal with a difficult conversation, they'll push it to you. They'll say, you need to deal with this guy, they're not performing, fire them. So it's up to you then to build the capacity of the line managers and help them realize that they've got a bigger responsibility, not just for results, but for the people that work under them. Just on the question, I think, on how do you take care of HR professionals during a change process? Again, it's a struggle. I struggle with it as well. You've got to put in a brave face, because during a change process, it gets very emotional. Having those conversations, redundancies, and all that stuff, it's not easy. But then again, we know where the solution lies. We are the guys who send people for psychosocial support. But do we take that psychosocial support? I don't think we do. Do we talk to shrinks? I don't think, but we've got the contacts. We actually tell people, I can link you up with my friend. Do you link yourself up with that person? It's about time that we also realize that we are also vulnerable, and it takes a toll on us. You can actually have a mental breakdown as a HR professional, because you're trying to take in everybody's weight on you, and you're not taking care of yourself. So let's also sort of agree that the services that we recommend to other people, whether those are counselors or whatever, that we also do it. And that would be very useful for us. Thanks.
All right, Monica, you have 3 questions.
Okay, thank you. So I think to Peter's question, how do you tell that you are trusted? I think a very good question. And really, as we think about, in fact, the generation of today, trust is such a big currency for them. And you can see what's happening even in our country. If you say what you say and you don't live it, believe it or not, they will tell you. So part of how you can know that is feedback, and have very open channels of feedback. At NCBA, we have a whistleblower mechanism. If you feel that you don't want to speak and be identified, but we also have other various channels of open feedback. Right? Like, whenever we are doing a town hall, we always open a Mentimeter. So you can ask questions on the floor or allow people to just channel their questions. So we are constantly asking for open feedback. And if there is an issue around trust, believe it or not, you will get feedback and you'll get to know. I think you can all see what's happening in our country today. The generation of today, we are talking about redefining how we run HR in our organizations, but we also have human beings in the country who are giving us feedback as leaders, and they will tell you. If they've lost trust in you, they will tell you to your face. So I think we're in a generation season in time where people are ready to give you open feedback and tell you on your face. So I think that's what I'll say as far as how do you know whether you're trusted. To the question from Desmond and Nelson, I think that I'll tie them together. How do you break down hierarchy? I think I didn't get your question. I heard you say Nyokabi, so I don't know. Nyokabi is my friend in Safaricom, but I don't know. So, but anyway, you asked a very good question. Besides the houses and having fun, which we really do have a lot of fun, what else is in it? Actually, the house concept drives the strategy. It drives the strategy. It is the vehicle through which we use to cascade and break down strategy. So it's a fun place. It helps break down hierarchy. I can tell you, Daniel, Nelly is your house sponsor, and she's my colleague in ExCom. But the kind of fun you have with her, I don't think even remember she's a director. To a person in the branch who is a teller. We play games, we do team buildings. Every Friday, we have what we call Go For It Friday. We dress down, we wear jeans and our house t-shirts with our logos. We have potlucks together and talk about our values, right? So we use that vehicle to actually drive the culture of the organization. So we have 4 values: that we are driven, we are open, we are responsive, and we are trusted. So everybody knows that by heart, because every month we have a theme, okay? What does it mean to be driven? What are the behaviors? Can you guys have quizzes and the best house, and we accumulate points to the end of the year, and the best house gets a very fat check of about 1.5 million, which they can now go celebrate as a house. So everybody's aspiring to participate in the strategy of the organization. We use it to cascade what are the priorities of the year, how are we doing as a business. So it is so relevant to the heart of your strategy, so that culture drives the strategy. I also want to say we celebrate a lot of wins every day. So you had the generations of today, they don't want to wait for 1 year to be recognized. So you give spot awards. So when people do the right thing, I've spotted you, so I give you a spot award right on the spot. So it's really a great vehicle for driving behavior and the right behaviors, rewarding them, and people get recognized. Nelson, you asked a very good question. How do you manage to be courageous in the middle of such a difficult merger where you have equals, and you have 2 CEOs, you have 2 directors, and how do you actually not look like an imposter? I liked what Naomi, I don't know where Naomi is seated. I loved what you said. HR professionals, you have to carry courage, but competence is a very big thing that you also have to demonstrate. Remember, for every job, we had to select 1 person. But we were also very mindful that HR was driving this. And everybody and everything that happens after this will be driven by how HR shows up. So how do you, first of all, take care of your 2 HR directors? And I must commend the 2 leaders, because they called us up front and said, before anything, you both have a job. So please don't be anxious about anything. Carry yourself as professionals. So we knew you will get a job. Yeah, so nobody's going. So that really helped, that they were not competing and now creating a very bad hostile environment for them, because everybody was coming to HR. Are we safe? Are we what? So, but obviously, you have one job for the person who leads HR. And so, out of all of that, how professional you carried yourself, how trusted everybody felt around you. There were so many expectations. So competence is, you cannot get away with that. And I think our keynote address said, please build on your competencies. I'm a mathematician by background. I did double maths. And I wondered how I landed in HR. But now I know, because you really need to know how to build in the numbers, and today HR is data driven. I think, Victor, you've spoken about that. So anytime I stood up to speak, I had to have data that was believable, so I can have a conversation with a CFO and a CEO very comfortably. People believe you if you're data driven and you make decisions that are factual and can be supported. So please build your competency and have the courage to stand in the middle of storm and calm everybody down. Because if you're the person fueling the fire, then sorry, you will not have a job. I think finally the last question, I believe that was from, or have I answered all of them? I think I have.
You have, yes.
Just to say, remember as HR, you're the Moses carrying people through to Canaan. Always remember that. People look at you, the CEO also is having a lot of expectation for you to carry everybody through to Canaan. Are you going to be able to overcome, including the Red Sea? When you find the Red Sea and now you are stuck, and convince everybody will cross this sea. It's a very big job for HR. Be the Moses in your organization. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Let's appreciate our panelists. And a hearty applause to yourselves for being good students. Thank you so much. My name is Grace Nzula from Atara Solutions, otherwise known as the moderator of choice. Asanteni sana. Back to you. Hata mimi nipigie makofi.
Exactly. A round of applause for Grace.